All right. So given that it's January, the other big topic of conversation is 1099s. And QuickBooks has a 1099 tool built into it. And I know a lot of people are still used to like sending out the forms and figuring out who qualifies and all of that. But, you know, since everything is being automated these days, why not automate your 1099 process as well? A lot of my bookkeeping friends like Track 1099 to do their 1099 submissions, especially when there's a lot of them to do. But a lot of my clients are micro businesses that have, you know, 1 or 5 to send and not a whole lot to do. And so I thought I would demonstrate the new 1099 tools that are right inside QuickBooks, because a lot of time you can just do it yourself right from. Okay, so this is my fake company, Wild Style Construction. Bonus points for anybody who understands where the name came from. And again, it's not a real file, it's just my demo file, so you're going to see all kinds of craziness, like 524 bank entries to review, but if you know me, that should be 0, and I'm going to harp on you until yours is too. But in any case, let's talk about vendors. So there is a relatively new workers center right here that this used to just say employees. Hang on 1 second. Okay. What was the last sentence that I just said? Oh, the workers area. Okay, so this used to just say employees, but they've been adding in new contractors tools specifically for all your subcontractors. And people wind up on this list if they are marked as a 1099 subcontractor in their vendor card, or if you start from here. So first let me show you how you used to do it, and now I'll show you what the new tools are here. The way that you used to mark people as 1099 stuff is to go to expenses and go to vendors. And then when you would pick a vendor, like let's say the Abercrombie Fence Company, you would go up to edit their card, and then there's a button here for track payments for 1099.
That's what I've been doing.
Okay, so that's always the starting point. And if you do it the way I'm about to show you, it will retroactively mark this for you, so that's no problem. When you are getting ready to send somebody a 1099, you have to have their address, and you have to have their email address, and you have to have their tax ID number, whether it's a social security number or an EIN. And typically, you don't have that stuff. The way you get that information is by sending them a W-9 form, but that also means you have to have a W-9 form or do it electronically on a PDF, and then people don't get around to giving it to you. So these are all the barriers that we have typically had to compensate for in our workflows. So knowing that, Intuit has this new contractors area that tries to take the pain out of as many of those issues as possible. Abercrombie Fence is here because they had that check mark on it. Now here's the first of the super cools is when you click on their card here in this center, email your contractor to complete their profile, send email. And you put in their name and their email address and you send it to them, and they will get an email asking them to fill in their W-9, and it will fill it in electronically and put it on file for you. So you have all of their information, and it will update their vendor card with all of that data. So you don't have to monitor who's turned in the forms or not. It's all automatic, happening behind the scenes. Cool?
Cool.
If you have their personal details, you can click on personal details and add their personal details, whether they're using a social security number or an EIN. So if you already have a W-9 or you have this information, by all means, you're welcome to just fill it in yourself. You don't have to use the email, but hey, if you don't have the information, email.
Alicia, you mentioned email. I've got a couple of vendors that don't have email.
Then you are stuck with doing it on paper.
Yeah.
Or give them a call and you fill in this information.
Yeah.
Okay. And I believe that this qualifies as a W-9. QuickBooks will populate its own W-9 on your behalf with this information. All right. Also in this contractors area is the ability to actually pay your contractors. This little drop down right over here will allow you to write them a check, create an expense, or create a bill. And if you do it through creating a bill, I'll just go ahead with this default bill that it has here. So this is my subcontractor. They are doing the decks for me and getting the building permit. And these products and services are all double-sided products and services. So this is also what I'm getting paid for by my client. So I put exterior trim and decks on their invoices. I bill the subcontractor for the same product. That way I can even do profitability reports and job costing for these trim and decks. If I'm over here I can even come over here and say, okay, this is for, which customer is this for? This is for Allison Ball. And I can even pass that charge on to Allison so that it appears on her next invoice, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
Does all that make sense? Do you want me to go into any more detail about that?
I'm good.
Good on that. Okay. And then I'll save this. The next step in the automation is that if I go up to pay bills, there's a little link here that says pay bills directly from QuickBooks. So something else that's new is instead of having to go through and write paper checks, which is what this is set up to do right now, or logging in separately into your bank and sending them electronic payments there and then having to come in here and say that you paid it, there's now the features for paying your subcontractors or paying any of your expenses right inside your QuickBooks. If you are running payroll, now don't look at the screen yet because what I'm about to tell you is different than what we're looking at. If you are running payroll, you can actually pay your vendors and subcontractors for $2 per person per month for unlimited payments. So if you have a subcontractor that you're paying every 2 weeks for $2, you can just direct deposit them. If you're not running payroll, then you have this option for QuickBooks with Bill Pay that has 2 different levels. Most people just need the no monthly fee, and then if you pay them with a paper check, it will send the paper check for you for $1.99. Or if you have them, if you sign up, you can send them an invite. They can fill in their own payment information, and then you can pay them for 99 cents, and it will just do a direct deposit to their account that they set up. So this can send you a whole lot of time, especially if you're like having to run checks through the printer and sign them and envelopes and stamps. You know, that for me is worth $1.99 or 99 cents. If you have high transaction volume, you can pay $10 a month, and then each of these are 50 cents less, which means if you are running 20 or more a month, then it makes sense to pay the monthly fee and get the lower rates. Okay. If you have signed up for this, then you actually now have an option right here to just pay, send it, pay, send it, pay, send it, pay, send it, and then you don't have any other work to do, which is also really handy. Less menial labor we have to do, the happier everybody is. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So any questions about that option? I turned it on. I actually only have like 3 people that I ever send payments to anymore, but I turned it on. that $1.99 makes me happy. And then one of them is actually a subcontractor, so I just pay them. I do the $2 a month, and then I'm just sending them for free from there. I've gotten stuck. Let's see what's going on. All right, if you ever get this message, you can either reload or just take off all the stuff after the Intuit.com. Logged me out. That's cute. Okay, so there's a little bit of information about just routinely paying your subcontractors. The next thing that we want to talk about is actually the 1099 process. So 1099s are how the government makes sure that people who are not on your payroll are actually reporting their income. And I don't think I've ever heard of anybody of the government saying, you never got a 1099, no. But I guess the system of checks and balances then therefore works. The people that you send 1099s to are people who are either sole proprietors or LLCs. You don't have to send them to S Corps or anybody who's incorporated. You only send it if you have paid them more than $600 in a calendar year. And if you have paid them by credit card, you also don't have to 1099 them either, because all the credit card companies report who they gave money to. So you're limited then just to paying sole proprietors and LLCs who are more than $600 in a year that you wrote checks to or paid electronically. And that's it. The way that you do the 1099s is this beautiful little Prepare 1099s button right here. And it will, you will say, let's get started. And the first thing that it will do is ask you for your tax ID and your company information. So you want to make sure that that's correct. I'm not sure if it's going to let me forward or not without that. I'm not going to put in a real tax ID, guys. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I know that should have been real. Let me see if I can fake it out. I don't think I can. Okay, shut your eyes. Actually, it's my I'll use my real EIN number, then it's public record. I don't care. Give me a second to get that information. Okay, so you get your EIN and your information in there. Obviously, make sure that it's correct. And then we'll go to next. Now, here is one of the tricky places. What are you paying people for? Typically, we're looking at box 7, non-employee compensation. You may also have rents or royalties. Talk to your accountant about whether you need any of those and any of these other things. Once you get under non-employee compensation, subcontractors is an obvious one. So let's go find our cost of goods for subcontractors. Okay, in this case, it's in here as job labor costs. But so that's, if you have a subcontractor who you're subbing out your work for, but there's other kinds of expenses that you might be incurring where people tend to be sole proprietors or LLCs, like advertising is a huge one if you're having somebody help you with your marketing. So I generally turn on advertising and promotion. Professional fees is another one where people will hide. So you might have, the lawyer might be an LLC and not incorporated, or your bookkeeper may be an LLC and not incorporated. So you want professional fees checked off. And then, look through everything else and see, well, is there anything else that could possibly qualify? In which case you should add those accounts also. Prepaid expenses is a good one. Now, most companies don't have prepaid expenses, so at this point, most people go, huh, what? I don't even know what that is. Prepaid expenses is an asset account that you use when, I don't even think it's in this file. Here's an example. We have a virtual assistant, and we only pay her once a year, and we pay her the full amount up front once a year because she gives us a break for doing that. But I don't want to incur a $10,000 expense in 1 month and then have no expenses through the rest of the year. So we make her actual charge when we actually pay her, and we put it to prepaid expenses. And then I have an automatic journal entry run once a month to take 1/12 of the money and move it into my my virtual assistant category. So that way, when I look at a P&L, I can see exactly what I spent that particular month, and then it just spreads it all out. So in that case, prepaid expenses, you might also want that up here as well. Okay. So does that make sense for how to find these? So you may have a lot of different categories up in here that, you know, think about who was on this contractors list. Let me go ahead back into it again. You know, who is on this contractors list that you have here, and what categories did you pay them for? And then make sure that they're checked off on that list over here. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay. Once you've got that and you're feeling confident about it, we go to next. The next thing it does is it looks at all your contractors and gives you a heads up if you're missing any information. Are you missing tax IDs? Are you missing addresses? It'll turn it bright red, and you need to make sure you get this information. Generally, what you do is you would now save and finish later, go back into your vendors list, get the information, and then come back in here and pick up where you left off. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So then let's say we're okay about that one for now. I'll click next. And now it's going to actually check all of the criteria. Now, nobody showed up in here because not a real file. But this is where it's going to look at the categories that you specified, see who got $600 or more, who's on that list, and who you didn't pay by credit card. That's the other thing, is that if you paid them by credit card, they're going to get 1099 by the credit card company, and you don't have to include it here. So if you pay them by cash, check, EFT, I think debit card counts as well because it's a bank transaction, not an actual credit card transaction. But I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure on that. And so this will self-filter of that giant list that we saw. Yep, here I've got nobody. Let me actually, I'm going to back up a step. I want to actually see if I can make this generate somebody. So we were looking at Abercrombie Fence. Let me go ahead and add, no, not that. I want to write them a check. And we're going to make sure it's dated last year. So sometime in the middle of the year. And we are paying them for, now I don't actually, I don't know that all of these actually went to the right categories either, because again, fake file. But I'm going to assume that these did. Actually, I'm going to find out where they went. Let me find one that's real. So I'm going to go to my product and services list. And if we do concrete labor, job labor costs, job labor gross wages. Okay, so that's the, I have to make sure that that category is checked off. So job labor, gross wages. So back here, back to here. Cost of goods sold, job labor, gross wages. Bam. Okay. Now I've got some people. So you can see how important it is that you've got the right stuff checked off. And so now it's only pulling people who are greater than 600. It's only pulling people who were paid by cash, check, debit card, bank transfer, ACH, all of that stuff. Right? So then I would say finish preparing. And then here's your costs. It's $14.99 or $15. And that will, I think it's for 3 of them. I thought normally it says 3. I don't know if they've changed it and it's infinite, but the $15 was for 3, and then I think it was $5 per after that. But they will send the 1099 and the 1090. They'll send the 1099s and the 1096 to the IRS. They will email the 1099s to your subcontractors, and what it actually does is it creates for them a free QuickBooks self-employed account, but it's free unless they actually start using it, which I think is their kind of way of like trying to get some people in the door on it. But it does have the tax tools built in, so it kind of makes sense that they're leveraging their own resources. And then it will not only send them electronically, but it will print and mail the 1099 copies to the contractors as well. So it's going to do everything for you. If you would rather do it yourself and you have the forms and you want to do the printing, then you have that option right there as well. It's $58. They'll send you a kit. You print out of QuickBooks onto the forms and you mail them. I personally would rather spend this and just have it done.
And I'll say Track 1099 will email and or mail them for you. And the cost is maybe a little less.
Yeah, but Track 1099 is cheaper than this, and especially when you've got bulk, that is why my bookkeeper friends all prefer it to doing it this way. But for somebody who is not a bookkeeper who's doing it themselves, who only has a few to do, you can see how it's all nice and integrated. If you have a lot more, $5 a shot turns out to be really expensive.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of figure out where it's better. Track 99, I believe, also imports the data, right? So you don't have to type it in or do any of that.
You can. I entered it all manually.
Okay.
But there was so few that it didn't take me that long, and it would have took me longer to figure out how to do it.
How to do the upload.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, there's lots of options, but it's nice that in the last year they have built all of this into the system, and this was not there before.
Yeah,